seeking justice, or allowing someone to find their voice, to stand up for themselves, up to I call it the bully in their life, but sometimes they are the bully of their life. And at the end of the day, really, we are our biggest bullies about telling us we're not good enough, not smart enough, not this, that, and another thing. And when we're sitting here talking to people, we have heard thousands of great ideas. People walk into, I've spoken to Janine and they walk in and like, I got this really good idea.
Yeah.
I call it the wheel. It's this particular thing. It looks like this. It goes round and round. I'm envisioning people are going to be able to use it to move things from one, side of the room to the next, and maybe they might put this other invention that I have in it called an engine. And then it's like, okay, well, let's create a business plan for that. They're like, I don't think so.
Yeah.
That's really the first risk is what you have the idea. First risk is writing it down on paper, because then it becomes like an accountability thing. I have to say though, everything, all of the tools of personal development that we have learned over the years, from practicing your word to declaring into existence the thing that you want to have and going after it, and all of the tools, all of the books and everything else. I mean, it came down for me this last week to purpose. And we talked about what happened.
I think that I would really like you to dive into that, but I want to touch on a point there with the whole purpose thing. So one of the things that came up for me this week is when you disconnect to your purpose and vision, things that are heavy. So for example, this is a law firm. It's not like a party throwing business. These are not like all the cases that we work on aren't light and fluffy, and we're not having like merry-go-rounds and all that stuff. We've chosen to work in a very serious, kind of pretty heavy area of the law. And sometimes that heaviness can get a bit much, and it requires the entrepreneur us in our case, but I would say any entrepreneur, because even if you are throwing parties, being attached, the minutia, the day in, the day out, the grind, the obstacles, the resistance, your own, others, people that you're playing with, all of that stuff, it can get a little heavy. And I experienced that this week. And I said to Jay, look, we're going to do this, and this is going to, and we're going to be really brazen and bold and courageous. We need to get back in touch and realigned with our vision for the firm. What are we really about? What are we actually doing? And so I just wanted to give that sort of parentheses, because it's also part of the larger conversation of when you are courageous in anything that you're doing, it's really important that you're in alignment. It's really important that you check in with yourself and make sure that that why and that vision is strong. And that not only is it strong, but you yourself as an individual are attached to it, in the sense that you are connected to it. It resonates with you. It gets your juices going. It fuels you. It sees you beyond the inevitable obstacles that all businesses endure, that all businesses experience, and helps you to do that. And I think that Jay and I were successful in doing that this week, when the going gets pretty heavy. And even now, Jay, I'm sure you're going to share briefly what we experienced, even just moments right before the show, with certain things that go on in the business. And it really takes that commitment to the vision, because it can get tiring physically and emotionally. So when you're but the vision and reconnecting to the love of what you're doing and the purpose of why you're doing it invigorates, lights the path, and gives you air to fly and be really, really bold and really steady in unsteady waters.
I have over my life suffered from panic attacks. I don't know if some people get them. Sometimes they're heavy and sometimes they're mild and the like. And they're usually brought on by fear of what I don't know. I mean, especially when you're creating something, um, and and I see that Kim just wrote in. It's nice to hear from her.
Thank you,
Um,
Kim.
and
Sweetheart, we appreciate you.
and hey, Glennie, it's good to see you too.
Hi,
Um,
Glennie.
the uh, the fear based on like we're building something, we're pioneering some things in our law practice. The focus on the clients deserving of expeditious justice, and there are some things even for seasoned litigators and seasoned attorneys. I cannot be the only one. I'm certainly not, and I know this to be a fact, that every time they read something from the other side that's like, oh my God, that has this internal like thought of this reaction of, ooh, how do I handle that? But the connection to purpose of why I wake up in the morning gets me through all that now. And it wasn't as clear to me as it was this last week.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I have major breakthroughs in this journey of transformation, of creating the life that I want to experience. And I've written down where I'm going, and along the way, questioning the journey. And I questioned the journey only because I wasn't ready to fully step in or accept that part of the journey was not only risk, but the things that come along with risk. Because just because you take a risk doesn't mean you get a pass from the feelings and experiences that risk is going to create. You have cause and effect. You do something that's never been done before. You're going to ruffle feathers. People are going to tell you that it's not possible. People are going to tell you that to shut up.
You're wrong.
Don't do that. And basically, when you actually look at what they're saying, is that they've not thought of it, or they've not decided to take the risk to do it, and it's almost like a jealousy. But there's no prosthetic for process. There's no substitute for experience. You get to experience once you take a risk and you sit in uncertainty. You take a risk from where you were that was certain and safe, and now you're in chaos and uncertainty. And it's the courage to sit in that, and knowing, as long as you're true to your principles, integrity, honesty, compassion, forgiveness, that those things bring me through. I've said it before many, many times. I sleep at night because everything that I've done is honest that day. And while I do lie, my lies nowadays are more of inflation and omission. And these are the unconscious lies that I say to people that walk past me on the street or something like, how are you doing? Well, if I'm having a tough day, I'm just going to say, yeah, I'm doing great. Those are the things. But when we started talking about the show today, when we said we were going to talk about risk,
Yeah.
it's hard enough to have the dream and then have that, what do I do with it? But then once you get into it and you're halfway through the journey and you're 3 years in, and it's like, oh my God, how do I built this brick and mortar place and I got rent and I got payroll and I have this and that. And then I have all this uncertainty of, am I doing, it's not what I'm doing, is am I doing what's right? So much as was what I'm doing right now on my way to my goal. And the distinction is, it's like you're in this area of creation, but you want the certainty of the path. And
Yes.
unfortunately, that's not what the universe is going to give you.
That's, you know what? That's not what life is about, actually. There's just there are no guarantees. There are no certainties. Certainly in the realm, and the greater you risk, the greater the uncertainty. And you're right when you say that. I think that most people don't give themselves the credit or the benefit of failing forward or the lesson at all, because we're so addicted to that certainty that we want to have, that we want to see, that we want to experience. It's the whole I will be happy when or if thing. We want to be certain. And so this work does not yield that kind of certainty. Actually, it takes a lot of guts. Any entrepreneur takes a tremendous amount of guts and experimentation in order to see what path leads to your success. And that's kind of like where, again, circling back around to the risk and the vision have to be aligned, because the risk won't make sense if the vision isn't big enough or important enough to you.
Because there's pain.
Yeah. And
And
an enormous amount of discomfort, an enormous amount. When we just got what we got and I saw that it was 94 pages, I was like, oh my God, when is this week going to be over? Because it's interesting that we're talking about all of these things too. I've noticed, and I think I've shared this on the show before, prior to COVID, like weekends were also filled with work and all kinds of things. But once COVID hit, there was like a heaviness in the air that made it so that I didn't have the same level. And I'm still recovering my energy to what it was before, because I'm very sensitive and whatever, for whatever reason, I haven't been resting. So I realized, when I realized that I was enjoying cooking as much as I do lately, because the satisfaction and the gratification and the certainty is pretty immediate. In other words,
but it's also, you have a path to know where you're going. I mean, you have a recipe, right? Or you have something that you created yourself, and you know. So
yeah,
there's a lot of joy, and this is, I guess, this is the thing. As we're creating our own recipes in our business or
yeah, we're in
businesses,
recipe testing phase.
for what works, what doesn't work, and what do we get to add. And it's a constant debrief of, okay, well, that didn't work, or hey, that was painful, but that looked like it worked. And that's, you want to talk about taking risks. There's also a discernment with, okay, we did something, and we got this result. Now, this result cost us to expend time, resources, money, and would seemingly have been an epic fail, except for what was the result on, let's say, the other side. What are the positives that came out of it, and looking at it from a neutral standpoint, because pain can be interpreted as a negative thing, when in fact it's not, and it's just a matter of indicator of growth. There's nothing that you can't do to take a risk that you're not going to grow from. I mean,
Right,
you
and that
can
growth,
drink.
though, Jay, is a choice. It's a choice to grow, because a lot of times, and I would say in the past or prior to working in personal development and being super invested in personal development, I would think I was part of what I would say the majority of the masses, where, you know, life's a bitch and then you die, or life's a bitch and then you marry one, and pain is just part of the journey, but it's not, it's nothing more than pain. It's just something you get to go through. Today, I understand pain in a completely different way. Today, I choose that my pain not be in vain, that whatever discomfort or pain that I experience, that I do actually learn something from it. And I stay curious in the pain. I stay curious in the discomfort. But it takes discipline and awareness in order to do that. Because I used to believe that pain was just a part of life and you kind of sat in the fetal position until it passed. And, you know, today I do understand it very differently. So that's why I want to, bring it to light, the idea of choice in when you're experiencing pain, because ultimately you decide what you make it mean. So it's either going to be something that you can create value from or something that you just endure.
Risk, reward, sometimes they go hand in hand, and sometimes it would seemingly like net nothing. But I think the point I was making is that you're going to learn something. You're going to grow from even falling on your face.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it could mean don't do it again, or I'm going to try it again, even if I fall on my face, because because I'm committed to having this happen. Like if I'm declaring to pioneer a law firm that achieves justice, then that's the commitment. Getting there requires the taking of risks. Anytime that you're implementing a legal strategy,
Yeah.
on behalf of a client, you're taking risks. Based upon the information that you're having and experience. And experience, you know, goes only so far to calculate risk.
Yeah.
Because we live in an ever-changing universe, and we live in I mean, it's fascinating because we work with a lot of personalities, not just our clients, but the people that are on the other side, the judiciary, people that are around the judicial system, and it's one thing to know that 2 + 2 = 4. But a person is not the same person from day to day. I mean, everybody wakes up and put their foot on the floor, and then they stub their toe, and then it leads them down this particular day, and all of a sudden, you're really not dealing with the same human being as you were, the day before. So, taking risks, walking through the uncomfortability and the pain of the consequences of the risk equals confidence and experience. And
Yeah.
I said this to you today. We are in a much different position based upon the consistent action and taking risks than it was 2 years ago. I know personally that's like I've been able to emotionally achieve things, be emotionally resilient to things now. When 3 years ago, I didn't have the level of I want to call it emotional maturity than I have today, and I'm still I'm still growing.
Yeah, sure. Same
But
here, though. Same here.
So it's been 3 months of this circumstance. We have like many small businesses, had to adapt and change and move things around, and we've kept not our heads above water, but we have certainly maintained the firm, built the team, created new contacts all around the world. And
Yeah.
it's when I was on a conference call last night, actually 2 calls yesterday, one that you were on, and another one last night, and I had the feeling that, wow, this is really what support feels like. This is what team feels like, and it was like that was the reward of all of the risks that we're taking. We've done a lot we've done a lot to work on our infrastructure over the last 3 months. We've worked on our case management systems. We've worked on upgrading our web presence and a lot of other features in the midst of arguably a mini depression. I just saw today that unemployment was at 13.3%, and that's just astounding.
It is.
So giving the context of the show and everything else like that, we want to hear from you. You guys write in on Facebook with your questions. Now is the perfect time to start thinking about what risks you're willing to take in your life to have the life that you want. This last 3 months, I believe, has caused every human being in the United States to think about, what is it that I could otherwise be doing with my time? I have cut out 2 hours personally in my day of doing of traffic, and that's allowed me to become the most efficient lawyer that I've ever been in my entire career. Um, and with that, to do some other things in my life for hobbies and the such. Um, what is it out there that you would want to create with your life? And starting today, what is that dream that you have? What is the business that you want to build? What is the invention that you have? Because it starts with not just the idea, because we have plenty of time to come up with those during a crisis like this, but it's like writing that down in your handy dandy notebook and making a commitment to yourself that tomorrow you're going to take the next step. And then calling somebody and making yourself accountable to them, saying, "Hey, I'm willing. I've got this idea to start this business. By tomorrow at 5 p.m., I'm going to have registered the name on Sunbiz, which is the Secretary of State website in Florida, to create the business. I think it's like $75 to start the business. It starts just like that, because if you're going to create a new business, the risks are going to happen every single day, and they're going to happen. They're only going to get more, and they're going to get more butt puckering is what we call it.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
if that's what you're up to, this is the part of the show. It's like we would be happy to reach out. People reach out to us all the time, ask us questions about their business, about really, their lives and their relationships and a lot of other things.
Yeah.
But we're going into the summertime. I mean, this is really the time where it's like almost you have a quieter time, a more relaxed time. That I don't think that the summer vacation ever leaves our bodies, like from leaving school on about like the beginning part of June, like today, and knowing that you have about 8 weeks, 9 weeks before you have to go back to school. And taking that time to actually build something. I mean, you have the time. What are you going to do with it? And even as strange as it sounds, we find that the biggest risk and the biggest barrier to someone building a business or starting a business, it isn't finding the funding. It isn't doing the business plan. Most people stop building a business and following their dream because when it comes to naming their business, they stop. As crazy as that sounds, they have the idea, they have the service that they want to do, they have the yoga practice, they have this, but when it comes to naming the business, they won't name the business because for some reason giving a name to the business is taking the biggest risk of their life, because then it becomes real to them. It's like when you birth a baby and you give a baby a name and it's like it's real. And that's like the first hurdle to starting the business. And the next one's going to come when you have to like fill out the forms with the IRS and start the bank account. But when you do, you create momentum. And when you write down, I'm going to create a business, this is what I'm going to do, this is when I'm going to do it, and you make a commitment yourself to do it, yeah, each one of those things is going to be a risk. Each one of those things is going to feel like the biggest deal in your life, and it is. There's nothing small about any of this.
Right.
My coach told me today, everything matters, but not
It
everything
does.
matters.
And when you're starting something like this, anything new, any new project, it's the smallest steps that make the most, that make the biggest amount of difference at first, because it's really your evidence to yourself that you're willing to make a move on your own behalf. So it sounds small and insignificant, but it's not. It's actually really huge because you voted for yourself that day. You voted for your dreams that day. You made a mark on the trajectory of your life. And so sometimes I think that we don't give ourselves enough credit for those small things, but they really add up to some really big rewards if we allow them to do that. And then doing that consistently day after day, that's the momentum that we talk about. Those are the wins. And before you know it, it's a whole big thing. where you're taking more and more risks and building more and the vision is growing and getting bigger and bigger. And, I say to Jay all the time, it was a few years ago that we thought, we didn't know how we were going to make our nut at X amount of dollars a month. And now if we don't make that a week, I'm pulling my hair out. And and we're both looking at each other like, it's you. Thanks for not making X amount of money this week, that kind of thing. And it gets kind of crazy. So, but when you put it in that perspective, you're really able to see the growth and really take a moment to appreciate it and be like, wow, that's bananas. That's bananas.
I went around the office the other day, and things are, you know, um, things are similar to what they were when we remodeled it the last time. Um, but I was like, I love every piece of furniture in this place. I'm like, I have like an affection and gratitude. And then I checked in with myself, and I'm like, you know what? Even when we had, a smaller place to live, and whatever it was, I've had an attitude of gratitude. I mean, mind you, I've had my days, but overall, like I can legitimately walk in here and I don't ever say, "Oh my God, I wish I had a better office or something on a bigger floor." I mean, actually, we have a different concept for an office that we're thinking about building out, and that supports more of the concept and feel of the firm. But there's nothing in here that I'm looking at that I don't like genuinely appreciate. And to your point about like what we're doing per week as opposed to what we're doing per month, if you're looking for your evidence of faith, if you're looking for the evidence of am I on the right path, if you look around, it shouldn't take that much to see that. I see it in my body. I see it in my relationships. And mind you, it's gradual, it's over time, and I don't see it every single day. I don't see the risks that I take every day, but eventually I can look around and say, wow, look at the surroundings of this, and then I look inward, and it said, okay, what is it that I know about myself today that I didn't know about myself 3 years ago? And I always believed that I could, but now that I know more, like I was worth it.
Wow, that's a big one. That's a really, really, really big one. And as a coach, and it's interesting because you when you work as a coach, you end up realizing that you're coaching yourself actually, and in many ways, it's really interesting in how you bring. This is, I would say, the number one thing that comes up with the people who I coach, that whole the worthiness conversation, and tipping your toe into like, yeah, I deserve to be here, I am worth it. And then some days are better than others because you have the habit of umpteen amount of years feeling that you are not worthy somewhere somehow, but feeling worthy is a huge, huge win. Feeling like you deserve to be where you are, and you deserve the abundance and blessings that you have. That's a good day. It's a really, really good day. And when those days turn into weeks and months and then ultimately years, and that's just your ultimate state of being, that is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I saw some videos that I posted about almost 2.5 years ago. Actually, no, 2 years ago now. My first videos on Facebook as I started this transformational journey. And I see how far, like I see myself back then, and I see the fire in my eyes, but I also see that hesitation, and I see a lot of 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 a person dreaming. Uh, so I was talking about this idea of panic attacks, and mind you, I like to acknowledge myself for the amount of risk that actually we have been taking, and I think that after a certain amount of time, there was a culmination of things, but I think there was about 36 hours like this week that was in a quote unquote panic attack. Um, and it it felt like professional vertigo. And maybe I'm coining that term, but professional vertigo is like I didn't know where I was as far as like in organizational wise. I lost faith for a few hours as to what I was actually doing. I felt like I had taken massive steps backwards, and it occurred to me. I mean, I don't know when it was. I think I received something from another lawyer that just snapped me into this purpose. It brought me back like a flashback into oh, there it is. And it really solidified everything that I was going through. And then I thought that I was cured. I actually walked around like the next couple of days. I was like, this is pretty good. I mean, I'm like listening to some songs on the way to the office, you know, like stuff from Eminem, and I'm just like, yeah, da, 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 you know. And then, you know, a couple other things like that I got today. I was like, oh no, I'm not cured. I'm still, you know, although although there was a marked difference in how long it took the survival mechanism to give way to the I got this mechanism.
Yeah.
So over looking at a timeline, it's like I can see that going up against it every single day, going up against it, waking up, going into hitting the gym 6 days a week, putting in a 45-minute workout, meditating 20 minutes a day now, writing down my to-dos, getting organized, handling what's essential first, forcing myself to do the brain work uh, every single day of the legal writing that I have to do, and recognizing that that's just like me going into the gym. I feel just as good finishing an hour's worth of legal work as I do as when I do physical. So it's like I'm getting all these components together, and then you know you get your emails, and then the list of this and of what's coming next. I gave this analogy to my coach today. I've attempted on a number of occasions to get my pilot's license, but I never finished yet. But I have I completed. Attempted would be a bad word in this scenario. Uh, I think about 25 to 35 landings,
Yeah.
and I know that when I'm landing the plane, nothing else matters but me landing the plane. There's a lot of things on my checklist. There's a lot of things, but I'm telling you, I'm not thinking about did I take my dog out. You know, I'm not thinking about what happened last week. I'm not thinking about any email that I received. I see that airport about 6 miles out. I call the tower. Call the tower 3 miles out. I'm on approach. I see the landing lights. I see that I'm in the glide path, and you know, I know, you know, where my flaps are, and that's the only thing that matters is those things happening in sequence. And as I'm coming down to the final portion to land, everything else fades away. Looking at the end of the runway, and I'm just the plane wants to land itself, but you can't force it at that last second because there's something called the ground effect. So when you get into that zone, nothing else on the periphery matters. And that, I think, once you take risks over and over and over and over again, you get to that point, whether I'm sitting in this chair or if I'm sitting at 2,500 feet, I'm actually getting to the same feeling of, okay, this is what I have to do. It's all neutral, and my commitment is to get my butt on the ground.
Yeah.
A lot of risk, but then you get that resilience.
Yeah, I believe it's a practice, much like anything else, right, Jay? You know, I think a lot of us spend a lot of time being a little bit risk averse, and everybody has different degrees of it. And then when you start, I have told you many times, we're sitting at that roulette table only all the time. You know, I've told friends on a couple of occasions, I'm a degenerate gambler and I did not even know it. That's how it is. But again, now we're taking many more calculated risks and also enjoying the growth and staying in the game, proud of staying in the game when Many before us coulda, shoulda, woulda quit, and as you know, I belong to a mastermind that I really, really enjoy, and we go over the book Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill, and there's that very famous saying now, which is winners never quit and quitters never win, and it's really a true thing. We all have that desire, especially when you're risking high, and sometimes you're risking above your risk tolerance. So everything inside of your being is like, no, that kind of thing. But you press the button, it's too late. You've already spun the wheel, and it's all in motion, and you get to rise to that occasion. And I think that that's part of the growth that we've experienced individually, and certainly as a team in the business. So, uh,
Yeah, you know what? We used to come into the show sometimes. We were in the studio, and we had such a week. We put our head down on the
oh,
on the table, and just whine about, like, we have like $8 to go to like Whole Foods at, like, when we're done with the show. It's
which
just
really
like,
means we have $4 each.
so I mean, the other part of this show, Gene, that I'm so proud of. It's like, there's so many people out there that again, they're already on stage, and God bless them. They've worked there, took us off to get there. They've written their books, they've made their millions, they've done their stuff, and now they're just selling success. And there's a huge gap between that stage and waking up with the dream, uh, because there's a lot of that of the practice along the way, and we have basically made public. And I know on my Facebook post, and I know on this show, we have made our failures pretty public.
Pretty public indeed.
And I think in some of this, we have made some people infamous. You know, uh, we have really put out there the journey, the journey, and as we're going through this, and I reminded myself, and of I think we were talking to our producers, the momentum mindset program and the momentum mindset show, and it is really the love of what we have of this is basically dancing in front of the world and inviting other people to say it's not so scary to dance. It's not so scary to fail. It's not so scary to have the idea to do something new. I mean, it is, but but the thing is that you're still going to breathe.
And you live through it. That's the thing. It doesn't
Right.
kill you. You actually live through it, and you can thrive, and you can laugh, and you can enjoy it.
And this show is really like the dance and the journey of transforming a life into a life that you want, and figure that is worth living because you're worth living it. And it's amazing how time goes, and we can reflect on. And I was thinking about, there's a lot of guys out there. I was thinking of, I don't know why I was thinking about Howard Stern, but he's got his old tape. He got his old tapes back, like from where he was working before, from in some kind of a deal, and of the morning shows that he used to do when he was like just starting out. And it's like, if you see like the progression of where he was in those smaller studios and smaller towns as a disc jockey, and then and you see Howard now, and it's like, geez Louise, is this guy on fire? And that's not, every single day of getting there at 5 o'clock in the morning, he's like never late. He's committed to his vision of doing and pioneering. I mean, the guy was fired, and he was sued,
So
and
many
the FCC
times.
him, and his life was over on so many occasions. You hear this all the time. The people that step out to dance are going to be made fun of. They're going to be
Yes.
ridiculed. They're even going to be ostracized. But that doesn't make what they're doing, like, they're doing
Wrong.
it
It's
because
pioneering.
they love to dance, and because staying still is not an option. So if you're one of the people out there that just doesn't want to stay still, follow us on this program, because we're going to continue to fail forward. We're going to continue to tell our story about the journey about taking risks. That's what the theme of the show today was, about taking risks, and
Yeah.
and that there's no one that's going to come for you to invite you to dance. I mean, originally you got to just get out there and do it yourself, and you'll see that people along the way will come and join you, and then more and more and more.
Yeah.
It's just, to look back on it. I mean, it's been a lot. It's been painful. It's but knowing that you're worth it, that comes with the territory. I had a big problem with that, Janine, just knowing that I was worth it. I was willing to take the risks. I was not one of those that could just sit where I was and just let the status quo, run me, or
Well,
just
it's
go to a
interesting because I think before, and if I may say, I think the risk that you were taking before also, yeah, they were always bucking the status quo, but it came from a I have nothing to lose perspective. It's a different intention. It's a different thing. When you sit in your worthiness, when you allow yourself to feel your worthiness, it's not because you don't have anything to lose anymore. It's because you are allowing yourself to be in that worthiness, knowing that no matter what comes at you, you're going to be okay. Do you see the difference? Like there's a big difference of where you come from in those two scenarios. So I think it's a huge testament and shift to that. And I mean, I certainly feel that for myself anyway. I can't speak for you, but I mean, I'm a witness to your evolution as you are to mine. And I can say that today I make choices very much from the I'm worth it, I'm curious, and I want to see what's what. Like it's a different energy. And I think that that's also too what allows me personally to stay in the game and not quit it.
one of the most amazing things, though, as we're this is if you think about it, we're into this now for a year and a half on this show. You know that? It's like I was just looking. It's June the 5th. It's a year and a half that we've been doing this show. Explaining our successes, our failures, what we learned, the challenges along the way. But it's only been a year and a half.
Yeah.
And to be, from where I was, and we're just talking about the show's been on for a year and a half, but I'm saying that my life transformation has been about for 3 years now, and just to know what you can build in 3 years, 3 short years of actually like waking up at some point 3:45 in the morning and going to 11:45 at night and doing that for 6 months, and then once you finish with that, maybe that didn't support me anymore, so I started to wake up a little bit later. But it's only that's what's great. It's like we're still in that process where if someone's looking at us and saying, "Oh
That's
my
so
God," because
great.
we have at least tripled, if not quadrupled, the size of the business in a year and a half or 2 years. And all of this is possible, and we're just like that far down the road from where you could start now. And it started with, we were on a number of occasions, Janine and I just sat down and we did the business proposal, the business plan for the business, and just said, okay, this is where we want to go. This is where we're going to be in 6 months, 12 months, and it's nowhere ever even close to what we wrote down 2 years ago. We had a heck of a time coming to where do we find ourselves in a vision for the momentum mindset, for the law firm, for we just we stumbled.
Yeah.
But we rewrote this. We wrote the script, and we went back to the drawing board. We went back to the drawing board, and we're still going back to the drawing board. Not so much now to rewrite the entire script, but to make some modifications that build some support beams, where necessary. But my first video post I put on Facebook was like, look, this is where I was, in November of 2016. This is where I am today. I'm starting this journey. I think I was 80 days in, where I made my first or second post and invited people to say, look, here I'm going on this journey of transformation, and it's only like 80 days ago. And I know that you about the same time started your own journey of transformation. And then, here we are through a lot of iterations, a lot of stops and starts, a lot of people that have come in and are no longer with us, people that are still with us. And you
Yeah.
can see just the evolution of things. And as that happens, and once you get through those first couple of years, at least you know that the one thing about yourself, that if you haven't quit in about a couple of years, you're pretty well on your way, to managing the ups and downs and the like, or at least knowing that there's still gonna be air tomorrow.
Yes. Yes. That you are stronger and can survive things that you never even thought were possible, and um, appreciate your growth. Appreciate where you've come from. I think that that's a lot about what Jay and I are saying today. And it's a great reminder for ourselves. I really am thinking about how funny it is to me now at this moment where, yeah, we used to survive on what we need a week for an entire month, sometimes a 5-week month, you know? So it's like, wow, that gives me a perspective and an appreciation for the amount of growth that there's been. And look, that's a financial sort of measurement, but it's not really, because it talks about what you're willing to open up here and to receive and go for and grow. It's less about the Benjamins than it is about the growth. And by the way, we always welcome the Benjamins. I'm not saying anything different to that, but it's a larger conversation about allowing all of that in and having the courage to grow it. And sometimes, I'll tell Jay all the time, I know it looks crazy on the outside, but there's stuff going on here that's amazing. And when you stay in that state, there's a sense of grace that comes, and things start to flourish, and you start to see things with different eyes. I've said this before, our work is pretty intense. We really generally only really talk about work mostly these days, at least in a very strict way, I would say, for the last many, many months. But it's interesting as I hear you talk, how we go through a lot of the same things separately, yet together. It's very funny. And then it's only when we get to sort of like round table on this that we can come to it. But yeah, it is a life of creating momentum. There are times where you will feel challenged, you will feel bruised and beaten a little bit. And there is always something that can remind you, if you look for it, if you pay attention, that how far you've come. And I encourage all of you to, yes, dance, as Jay said, dance, dancing your life, whatever that dancing means to you. Um, for some of you, it could be going for your business full throttle. For others, it could be opening yourself up to different experiences. Whatever it is for you, do it. You are worth it. And this life is for us to experience all kinds of different things. And among them, peace of mind, joy, happiness, dancing, all of the good stuff, and learning the lessons along the way. And growing, we're a testament too of growing your ability to receive, growing your ability for risk tolerance, growing your ability to work your faith into your life, to know that you are divinely loved and divinely created and divinely protected. So it's a heck of a ride. I will tell that. Never a dull moment around here. And yeah.
You know, Janine, there are some human beings that are likely watching this show right now, and I just would hope that they would have the what's the word I'm looking for? The courage, the humility to take a transcript of what you just said and you know, write about the things that we do in the same way that you complain about, you know, us calling out the things that you do. We have, I think, and I'm going to acknowledge this, made a real mark on our community in this program, because this is something that we have done, we have supported as far as paying for it ourselves. And the only thing that we get back is just your responses, your feedback, you know, and in the process of what we're doing, you know, supporting people to stand up to the bullies in their life at the law firm, you know, allowing people to find their voice. It's been very challenging and sometimes soul-searching work on our part. But I think that we're here week in and week out, even though we at times had to use our last dollar to pay for this show in order to send a message, because we knew how important it was for people with dreams to see other people with dreams being as messy as it's been, to see what it looks like in real time, to see what when you look at the personal development world, what we found that there was the gap was, what does it look like in the middle of all of it, before the lights, before the cameras, before the
all the
stereo.
millions.
Right. What does it look like to see all the failures, to see all the disappointments, to see when things aren't working out, to see when our relationship, you know, is rocky. And it's just a commitment that we have to the people that watch us week in, week out. Whatever part of your life that you're going with, this show is about where it could go by taking some risks, becoming accountable to yourself, and not giving yourself an out or any excuses. And for the last year and a half, it's really a work that I know that years to come, you know, we're going to be very, very proud of. And I know that this week and a couple weeks we're doing some changes with our formatting and the like, but we're here, you know, in this format, at least on Facebook, and I think on a couple other platforms. And I want to thank you for the last year and a half of being my co-host.
Thank you.
And I'm really, really, really proud of us this week.
And we're going to keep going and encourage everybody to keep going. I know it sounds trite and a little corny, and I don't care. Literally, don't stop believing. Not in yourself, not in your dreams, not in anything that you want in this life. You can have it. We are all in this together. We need each other in order to support each other's life visions. So I would say honor yourselves, honor your partners in your life, and show up for you. Keep swinging. Don't stop believing.
We'll see you next week, everybody, and we will be in the studio. We look forward to seeing you then. We look forward to seeing our producers then. We thank them as always for helping us.
Thank you so much for your support, Don and Freddie.
Everybody, keep on going. We are stronger together.
Absolutely.
Have a great weekend, everybody.
Bye,
we'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to the Momentum Mindset Show. For your hosts, Jay and Janine, we'll see you here next week. Thank you for being real, authentic, and honest.
If you'd like to reach us, please Contact us on our Facebook page, The Momentum Mindset Show, or on our office phone line, which is 954-559-6987.
We are stronger together.
And remember, keep going.